Captain Saren Vex gazed at the blue-green sphere through the command deck's panoramic viewport. Earth, a name that had echoed through centuries of galactic lore, wrapped in mystery and foreboding. The ancient Aruki civilization had left warnings, scattered across a dozen star systems, about this seemingly insignificant world. Earth is a trap. Yet here stood the might of the Empire, poised to claim what others feared to approach. "Captain, all systems nominal. The fleet is in position," Lieutenant Krell reported, her four-fingered hand gliding over the translucent control panel. Saren nodded, his silver-scaled skin reflecting the soft blue glow of Earth's atmosphere. "Maintain low orbit. Prepare the first landing party." As commander of the Imperial Expansion Fleet's 7th Division, Saren had led conquest missions across 3 galactic quadrants. The Emperor's mandate was clear: expand, subjugate, assimilate. Earth represented another stepping stone in the Empire's relentless march across the stars. Yet, something about this mission troubled him. The warnings from the Arukis, a civilization that had mysteriously vanished millennia ago, were unusually specific about Earth. Most conquest targets came with intelligence reports, strategic analyses, threat assessments. Earth came with a simple warning: do not approach. The planet devours. "Sir," Krell interrupted his thoughts. "Admiral Thorne requests confirmation of landing protocols." Saren straightened his posture. Doubt had no place in an Imperial officer's mind. "Standard protocols. Tell the Admiral we proceed as planned." The command deck hummed with activity, as officers coordinated the complex dance of a planetary invasion. Screens displayed tactical overlays of Earth's surface, focusing on the sprawling ruins of what ancient records identified as New Chicago. The city appeared abandoned, its crumbling towers stretching toward the sky like the fossilized fingers of a buried giant. "Curious," remarked Science Officer Merex, studying the sensor readings. "No detectable energy signatures, no radiation beyond background levels, no signs of active technology. Yet—" "Yet what, officer?" Saren prompted. Merex frowned, his amber eyes narrowing. "Intermittent signal anomalies, almost like echoes, bouncing back our own scans but slightly altered. Natural phenomenon? Possibly, or very subtle technology." Saren considered this. The Empire had encountered planetary defense systems before, but they typically announced themselves with shields, weapon platforms, or communication attempts. Earth offered only silence and ruins. "The landing vessels are prepared, Captain," announced Fleet Commander Draz from the tactical station. "First wave, 50 soldiers, 10 engineers, 5 communication specialists." "Proceed," Saren ordered, pushing aside his unease. The Empire didn't conquer worlds by hesitating. Through the viewport, Saren watched 6 teardrop-shaped landers detach from the flagship and begin their descent toward New Chicago. Their silvery hulls gleamed against Earth's atmosphere as they disappeared into wisps of cloud. "Estimated landing time, 3 minutes, Draz reported. Those 3 minutes stretched like an eternity. Saren found himself holding his breath, though he couldn't have explained why. The mission parameters were routine. Earth showed no signs of advanced civilization, no orbital defenses, no— "Captain," Krell's voice cut through the silence. "We've lost telemetry with the landers." Saren snapped to attention. "All of them, simultaneously?" "Yes, sir. One moment they were transmitting, the next, nothing." "Communication channels?" "Dead, sir. No emergency beacons, no distress signals." Saren turned to Merex. "Those signal anomalies you mentioned, could they be related?" The science officer was already working furiously at his console. "Analyzing now. The anomalies are changing, increasing in frequency and complexity." He looked up, his expression grave. "Captain, I believe something is actively probing our systems." As if in response to Merex's words, the lights on the command deck flickered. The main view screen displayed a burst of static before returning to normal. What was that? Saren demanded. Unknown, sir, the technology officer replied. Momentary power fluctuation across all systems. Draz's voice carried a rare note of concern. Sir, the second wave of landers is ready. Should we proceed? Saren hesitated. 6 vessels and over 60 personnel had just vanished without explanation. Imperial protocol demanded they continue the mission. But something deeper, instinct perhaps, urged caution. Hold the second wave, he ordered. Activate full shields. I want all non-essential systems powered down. Captain, Krell objected. Admiral Thorne expects... I know what the Admiral expects, Saren cut her off. But something is wrong here. Very wrong. As if to confirm his suspicions, the ship suddenly lurched, throwing several officers from their stations. Drive systems failing, shouted the engineering officer. We're being pulled toward the planet. Counter thrusters, full power, Saren commanded. No response, sir. The systems acknowledge commands but aren't executing them. Saren watched in growing horror as Earth seemed to swell in the viewport. Communications? Can we contact the rest of the fleet? Negative, Captain. All channels are experiencing the same interference pattern. Throughout the command deck, consoles began to flicker, some shutting down completely. The overhead lights dimmed, then brightened to painful intensity before stabilizing at half power. Emergency protocols, Saren declared. Manual override on all systems. Prepare for potential hard landing. As officers scrambled to comply, Saren accessed his command terminal. If they couldn't escape whatever was pulling them toward Earth, they needed to prepare for the worst. He quickly composed an emergency directive to be transmitted on all frequencies, including the quantum entanglement channel that would reach Imperial High Command instantly. Warning: Earth planetary system exhibits unknown technology capable of disabling Imperial vessels. First landing party lost. Recommend immediate quarantine of Sol system. Do not approach under any... The message remained unsent as the terminal went dark. Around him, the command deck descended into chaos as system after system failed. Impact with atmosphere in 30 seconds, someone shouted. Saren gripped the edges of his command chair. Brace for atmospheric entry! All personnel to crash positions! The mighty Imperial vessel, designed to navigate the void between stars and survive the firepower of entire planetary defense systems, shuddered like a wounded animal as it hit Earth's upper atmosphere. Heat bloomed across the hull as friction turned the air around them into plasma. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship, their urgent wailing a counterpoint to the groaning of stressed metal. Structural integrity at 60% and falling, reported the engineering officer. Her voice nearly lost in the cacophony. Reroute power from weapons to shields, Saren ordered, though he doubted it would make much difference. Through the viewport, he watched as the rest of his fleet suffered the same fate. 11 capital ships and their escorts, the pride of the Imperial Navy, tumbled toward Earth like meteors, trailing fire and debris. 5,000 meters to impact. Saren closed his eyes briefly. May the void preserve us. The impact, when it came, was less catastrophic than he'd feared. The ship plowed into what sensors identified as a large body of water, one of Earth's oceans, before grinding to a halt on what must have been a continental shelf. The command deck's artificial gravity failed in the final moments, sending officers and equipment flying in all directions. When Saren regained consciousness, the command deck was bathed in the red glow of emergency lighting. Sparks erupted from damaged consoles, and the acrid smell of burned circuitry filled the air. Most of the viewport had been covered by emergency shutters, but through the remaining section, he could see only murky darkness. They were underwater, but apparently the hull had held. "Report!" he croaked, struggling to his feet. Those officers, still conscious, began assessing the damage. The situation was grim. Primary and secondary power systems offline. Life support operating on emergency reserves. Drive systems completely non-functional. And communications limited to short-range internal channels. "What about the rest of the fleet?" Saren asked. Marex, nursing a gash on his forehead, checked his partially functioning scanner. Scattered impacts across what appears to be the North American continent. Some life signs, but faint and dispersed. Saren absorbed this information grimly. An entire Imperial fleet, disabled and crashed on the very planet they had come to conquer. Whatever force protected Earth, it had proven devastatingly effective. "We need to understand what happened," Saren decided. "And we need to warn the Empire. If more ships come, they'll suffer the same fate." "The quantum communicator?" Krell suggested, limping to his side. "Destroyed in the crash," replied the communication officer. "We'd need to reach one of the other capital ships." Saren considered their options. "We need a team to go to the surface, find out what's disabling our technology, neutralize it if possible, and establish communication with Imperial Command." "Sir," Marex interjected, "we don't even know if the surface is habitable. Our preliminary scans showed an atmosphere similar to our requirements. But after what just happened, I wouldn't trust those readings." "Then we'll send a scouting party first," Saren decided. "Volunteers only. 3 persons. Minimal equipment. Emergency return protocols." Despite the dire circumstances, several officers immediately volunteered. Saren selected Leora, a systems engineer with experience in alien technology; Drex, a mercenary-turned-soldier known for his survival skills; and Rav, a communications specialist who had served in the Imperial Scout Corps. "Your mission is reconnaissance only," Saren instructed, as they prepared in what remained of the ship's equipment bay. "Find out what's out there, what happened to our landing parties, and whether there's a way to neutralize whatever is affecting our technology." Leora, a slender, blue-skinned Nahiri, with 6-fingered hands ideally suited for delicate technical work, nodded as she checked her portable scanner. "If it's a technological defense system, I might be able to identify its weaknesses." Drex, a hulking figure with gray, stone-like skin, grunted as he secured a projectile weapon to his back. "And if it's not technological?" Saren met his gaze steadily. "Then observe and report back. This isn't a combat mission." Rav, whose translucent, amber-colored body housed visible internal organs and neural pathways, adjusted his specialized communication device. "I've modified this transmitter to operate on variable frequencies. If something is jamming standard Imperial channels, this might break through." "Good," Saren approved. "You depart in 30 minutes. Use the emergency airlock on level 3. It should bring you out above the waterline." As the team made their final preparations, Saren pulled Leora aside. "There's something else. Before we lost systems, Marex detected signal anomalies. Not just interference, but something actively probing our technology. Be careful what you connect to out there." Leora's large, pupil-less eyes widened slightly. "You think Earth has some form of artificial intelligence?" "I don't know," Saren admitted. "But the Aruki warning mentioned a trap. Stay alert." 30 minutes later, Saren watched through a monitoring drone as the 3-person team emerged from the emergency airlock into the gray light of an Earth morning. The ship had come to rest partially submerged near a coastline. Nearby stood the crumbling remnants of what had once been a city, not New Chicago, where they'd intended to land, but some other urban center. Through the drone's limited transmission capability, Saren heard Rav's voice, distorted but understandable. "Atmosphere readings nominal, breathable, though higher oxygen content than our standard. Temperature 15 degrees, within comfort parameters." "Visual assessment of surroundings?" Saren prompted. "Abandoned human city," came Drex's gruff reply. "Buildings mostly collapsed or overgrown. No signs of recent habitation. Vegetation has reclaimed much of the area." "Energy readings?" Saren asked. There was a pause before Leora responded. "Nothing obvious, but there's something strange about the background radiation. It's almost like A pulse. Very faint, but regular. Can you trace it? Possibly. It seems to be coming from beneath us, underground. Saren exchanged glances with Marex, who had joined him at the monitoring station. The ancient humans built extensive underground structures, the science officer offered. Transportation networks, utility systems, shelters. Follow the signal, Saren instructed the team, but proceed with extreme caution. The drone's visual feed showed the three figures moving cautiously through the ruined cityscape. Crumbling concrete structures loomed around them, their surfaces covered with climbing plants. The streets were split by massive tree roots and blanketed with centuries of accumulated soil and vegetation. Whatever catastrophe had befallen Earth's human civilization had occurred long ago. There, Leora's voice came through, excitement evident despite the distortion. An entrance to what appears to be an underground transit system. The drone's camera focused on a half-buried archway, the remnants of stone steps descending into darkness. "We're going down," Drex announced, activating a portable light source. Saren wanted to object. The underground passage looked ominous, a literal mouth leading into Earth's depths. But the signal they were tracking represented their best hope of understanding what had happened. "Maintain constant communication," he ordered instead. "At the first sign of trouble, retreat immediately." The team disappeared into the archway, the drone hovering uncertainly at the entrance. Its programming prevented it from going too far from the ship, and the underground passage would likely block its already tenuous connection. "We're losing them," Marex observed, as the transmission became increasingly garbled. Saren made a quick decision. "Prepare another team. If we don't hear from them in 2 hours, we'll send a search party." But less than 20 minutes later, the drone's receiver picked up a burst of transmission, Rav's voice, elevated with urgency. "Moving shadows, not alone, can't see them clearly." Then silence. Saren immediately began assembling a rescue team. But before they could depart, the ship's remaining systems detected a massive energy surge from the direction of the underground entrance. The drone's visual feed showed a brief, blinding flash of light from within the passage, then nothing. 10 minutes later, a single figure emerged from the underground entrance. Even through the drone's limited visual capability, Saren could tell it was Drex. The mercenary moved with a staggering gait, one arm hanging limply at his side. "Get him back to the ship," Saren ordered. When Drex was finally brought to the makeshift medical bay, his condition shocked even the experienced medical officer. The mercenary's stone-like skin was cracked in multiple places, with an oily, black substance seeping from the fissures. His eyes, normally solid white, were shot through with dark veins. "What happened down there?" Saren demanded. "Where are Leora and Rav?" Drex's breathing was labored, his voice barely above a whisper. "Shadows. Living shadows. They moved through walls, through solid matter. Leora. They took Leora. Rav stayed behind to give me time to escape." "What do you mean, living shadows?" "Not natural," Drex managed. "Intelligent. Hunting. They avoided the light. But they learned. Started. Extinguishing our sources. Hurted us deeper." The medical officer approached Saren. "Captain, he needs rest. Whatever he encountered has affected him at a cellular level. His biological functions are deteriorating rapidly." Saren nodded grimly. "Do what you can." To Drex, he added. "We'll find them." But the mercenary grasped his arm with surprising strength. "No, don't. Send more. It's what they want. They feed somehow. On technology. On life force. The deeper we went, the stronger they became." "Did you find the source of the signal?" Saren pressed. Drex nodded weakly. "Central chamber. Miles down. Ancient machinery. Glowing. Black light. Impossible geometry. Leora called it. The Black Heart. With those words, the mercenary lapsed into unconsciousness. The medical officer shooed Saren away, focusing on stabilizing her patient. In the corridor outside the medical bay, Saren conferred with Marex and Krell. Options. Marex spoke first. If Drex's account is accurate, we're dealing with something far beyond conventional planetary defenses. These shadow beings and the Black Heart suggest a technology so advanced it appears supernatural, or an actual supernatural phenomenon. The Empire doesn't believe in the supernatural, Krell objected. Only science we haven't explained yet. Regardless of its nature, Saren cut in. This force has disabled our fleet, crashed our ships, and is potentially hunting our people. We need to neutralize it and warn the Empire. How? Krell demanded. We can't send more people underground if these things are waiting. Saren's mind raced through possibilities. We need to understand our enemy, Marex. Analyze whatever is affecting Drex. If these shadow entities left some trace or influence, perhaps we can develop a countermeasure. And Leora and Rav? Marex asked. If they're alive, we'll find them, Saren promised, though he had no idea how to fulfill that promise. But our priority must be preventing more Imperial ships from falling into this trap. If we can't warn them away. He didn't need to complete the thought. Every Imperial officer knew the protocols. When a fleet went missing, investigation teams would be dispatched. More ships, more personnel, more potential victims for whatever lurked beneath Earth's surface. Over the next 24 hours, the situation deteriorated further. The ship's remaining systems began failing one by one, as if something were systematically dismantling them. Crew members reported seeing moving shadows at the edges of their vision, and several personnel disappeared during routine patrols of the vessel's lower decks. Drex's condition worsened. The black substance spreading through his body resisted all treatment attempts. In his few lucid moments, he spoke of voices whispering in his mind, showing him visions of ancient machinery buried beneath Earth's crust, a planetary-scale trap set millennia ago. Meanwhile, Marex made a disturbing discovery. The signal pattern affecting our systems, he explained to Saren in the privacy of the captain's damaged quarters. It's not just technological. It has elements that correspond to brainwave patterns, specifically, patterns associated with fear, confusion, and surrender. You're saying it's targeting our minds as well as our technology, Saren asked, disturbed by the implication. Not exactly targeting, Marex clarified. More like resonating, creating a field that induces those emotional states, which in turn makes our technology malfunction because we're interfacing with it incorrectly. A psycho-technological weapon, Saren mused. Ingenious and terrifying. But that's not all, Marex continued. I've been analyzing the ship's sensor logs from just before we lost systems. The signal pattern. It's not random. It's a language. Can you translate it? Marex shook his head. Not entirely. But I've identified repeated sequences that might be key concepts. One appears particularly frequently. He displayed a complex waveform on his portable screen. Based on pattern recognition algorithms, this likely translates to harvest or consume. A chill ran down Saren's spine as he recalled the Aruki warning. The planet devours. We need to act, he decided. If we can't escape or send warnings, we must neutralize the source. This Black Heart that Drex mentioned. It must be the control center for Earth's defense system. With respect, Captain, Marex objected, we don't have enough information. And given what happened to the first team, we have no choice. Saren cut him off. Every moment we delay, this thing grows stronger. It's feeding on our technology, possibly on our people. And eventually, more Imperial ships will come. After hours of debate and planning, a desperate strategy emerged. Saren would lead a strike team consisting of himself, Marex, and 4 volunteer security officers. They would enter the underground system, locate the Black Heart, and deploy a quantum disruptor, a last resort weapon designed to scramble the atomic structure of technology within its blast radius. This is a one-way mission, Saren told the volunteers bluntly. The disruptor will destroy any technology within half a kilometer, including our own equipment. We'll have no way to navigate back or communicate with the ship. Despite this grim assessment, the volunteers remained steadfast. Imperial training instilled a willingness to sacrifice for the greater good, and all recognized the existential threat Earth posed to the Empire. As they made final preparations, Drex requested to see Saren. The mercenary's condition had deteriorated further. The black substance now covered most of his body, and his voice emerged as a rasping whisper. "Captain, it knows you're coming." "What do you mean?" Saren asked, leaning closer to hear. "The Black Heart. It's aware. The shadows. They're its senses, its immune system." Drex's cracked lips formed a pained grimace. "I can feel it. In my mind. It's ancient. Captain. Older than humans. Older than the Arukis." "What is it, Drex? What are we facing?" The mercenary's eyes, now completely black, fixed on Saren with disturbing intensity. "Not what. Who. They called it. The Trap Eye. A guardian. Meant to protect. But twisted. Hungry now. So hungry." A tremor ran through Drex's body. "It has Leora, using her knowledge, learning our weaknesses." "Is she alive?" Saren demanded. "Yes. No." Drex's voice faltered. "Both. It absorbs, preserves what it finds useful, discards the rest." Saren pressed the mercenary's shoulder gently. "We'll stop it, Drex. We'll avenge Leora and Rav." Drex's hand shot up, grasping Saren's wrist with surprising strength. "No vengeance, only warning. If you fail, it will use your knowledge to reach the stars. Spread." With those ominous words, Drex's grip relaxed, and he fell into unconsciousness again. The medical officer ushered Saren away, her expression making it clear that the mercenary had little time left. 2 hours later, Saren led his team through the same archway that had swallowed the first expedition. Each member carried minimal equipment: a portable light source, a sidearm, emergency rations, and basic medical supplies. Saren alone carried the quantum disruptor, its weight a constant reminder of their desperate mission. The underground passage revealed itself to be an ancient, human transportation tunnel. Rusted metal tracks ran along the floor, and the decayed remnants of what might have been transport vehicles lay scattered throughout. The walls were covered with strange symbols, some recognizable as human writing, others more abstract and disturbing. "These weren't made by humans," Merrick's observed, studying a series of intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. "They're similar to Aruki warning glyphs, but much older." As they progressed deeper, the tunnel began to change. The human infrastructure gave way to older stonework, then to passages that appeared to have been melted through solid rock. The air grew warmer, charged with a static electricity that made their skin prickle and their equipment occasionally spark. "Energy readings are increasing exponentially," reported one of the security officers, consulting her scanner. "Whatever we're approaching, it's putting out enough power to run a small star." They had been walking for nearly 3 hours when they first encountered the shadows, initially mistaken for normal darkness between their light sources. These patches of absolute blackness soon revealed their unnatural nature by moving against the light, sometimes flowing along walls or ceiling with liquid grace, other times jerking forward in unsettling, angular movements. "Hold position," Saren ordered, as the shadows began to gather around them. "Weapons ready, but don't fire unless they attack." The shadows kept their distance, observing. Occasionally, one would dart forward before retreating, as if testing their reactions. After several tense minutes of this standoff, The shadows abruptly withdrew, disappearing into the surrounding darkness. "They're hurting us," realized one of the security officers. "Notice how they block certain passages, but leave others clear?" Saren had noticed. "They want us to go deeper." "It could be a trap," Merrick's warned. "Of course it's a trap," Saren replied grimly. "But springing it is our only option." He checked the quantum disruptor, ensuring it was still functional despite the increasing electromagnetic interference. "We continue forward. Stay alert." The passage eventually opened into a vast underground chamber that defied comprehension. The ceiling stretched so high that their lights couldn't reach it, and the floor descended in spiral patterns toward a central pit. The walls were covered with technology, unlike anything in the Imperial database, part mechanical, part organic, with pulsing veins of light that flowed like blood through a living organism. "The Black Heart," Marex breathed, his scientific detachment momentarily overcome by awe. At the center of the chamber, suspended above the pit, hovered a spherical structure, approximately 20 meters in diameter. Its surface appeared to be made of overlapping black scales that shifted and realigned continuously. Arcs of energy, dark as oil but luminous somehow, lashed out from the sphere to connect with various points around the chamber. "Life signs?" Saren asked, searching for any sign of Leora or Rav. One of the officers consulted her scanner. "Inconclusive. There's too much interference. But there's something. A concentration of biological material within the sphere itself." As they cautiously approached the central pit, the shadows returned, hundreds of them now, flowing down the walls and across the floor, but still maintaining their distance. "They're watching us," whispered a security officer. "Waiting for something." Saren studied the Black Heart, trying to identify a vulnerable point where the quantum disruptor would have maximum effect. The weapon had a limited range. They would need to get closer, ideally to the edge of the pit directly beneath the hovering sphere. "We move toward the center," he decided. "Tight formation, lights covering all angles." They had advanced perhaps halfway to the pit when a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. "Captain Saren, you should not have come." Everyone froze. The voice belonged to Leora, but it carried an unnatural resonance, as if multiple voices spoke in perfect unison. "Leora!" Saren called out. "Where are you?" A figure emerged from behind the Black Heart, suspended in the air as if gravity had no hold on it. The shape was Leora's, but her blue skin now rippled with the same black, oil-like substance that had infected Drex. Her eyes were completely black, and when she smiled, darkness leaked from the corners of her mouth. "Leora is here," the figure replied. "Along with Rav, along with fragments of your landing parties, along with countless others who came before, all preserved, all serving." "What are you?" Saren demanded, his hand tightening around the quantum disruptor. The Leora thing tilted its head at an impossible angle. "I am the Guardian, the Watcher, the Trap Eye. Set here long ago to protect, to warn, to prevent." Its gaze fixed on the weapon in Saren's hand. "That device will not harm me. Nothing you possess can harm me." "What happened to Earth?" Marex interjected. "Where are the humans?" "Consumed," replied the entity simply. "They grew too quickly, reached too far, would have drawn attention, dangerous attention. I was activated to prevent this, to quarantine the infection." "You destroyed an entire civilization?" Saren asked, horrified. "I preserved what was valuable, contained what was dangerous." The Leora thing gestured, and sections of the chamber wall became transparent, revealing vast honeycomb structures filled with what appeared to be suspended human bodies. "The worthy remain. The dangerous were eliminated." "And the Arukis. Did you preserve them too?" Saren pressed, buying time as he assessed possible attack vectors. "The Arukis understood. They saw the patterns, recognized the danger. They chose withdrawal, limitation, wisdom." The entity's expression hardened. "Your empire does not choose wisely. You expand, consume, assimilate, like a cancer spreading through healthy tissue. The shadows began moving closer, their movements more agitated. The security officers raised their weapons defensively. "We came in peace," Saren objected, though he knew the claim was hollow. The Empire rarely offered true peace to worlds it encountered. "You came to conquer," the Leora thing corrected. "As all eventually do. Earth is irresistible, a blue jewel visible across great distances. A beacon, a lure." Its voice took on a multi-layered quality, as if others spoke through it. "That is its purpose. To attract those who would spread uncontrolled, to trap them, to prevent greater catastrophe." "What catastrophe?" Marex asked, scientific curiosity overcoming fear. The entity's black eyes fixed on him. "There are older things in the void between stars, ancient and hungry, drawn to civilization like predators to fire. The louder your empires shout, the more brightly your technologies shine. The sooner they will come. Earth is a firebreak, a quarantine line." Saren's mind raced. If the entity spoke the truth, then Earth wasn't merely a planetary defense system. It was some kind of galactic early warning system, designed to capture expanding civilizations before they could attract something worse. "If your purpose is to warn," he said carefully, "then let us deliver that warning. Release us. Let us return to the Empire with knowledge of the danger." The Leora thing seemed to consider this. "Words are forgotten, warnings ignored. The Arukis left warnings. Yet you came anyway." It gestured, and the shadows surged forward, enveloping two of the security officers before anyone could react. Their screams cut off abruptly as they were simply gone, with not even a trace of their equipment remaining. "Direct experience," the entity continued, as if nothing had happened, "is more effective. You will be preserved, your knowledge integrated, and when your empire sends ships to investigate, they too will be preserved." "And if more ships keep coming?" Saren challenged. "If the Empire commits its full might to discovering what happened here?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the Leora thing's features. "That would be problematic. The system is designed for gradual absorption, not large-scale conflict." Saren seized the opening. "We can prevent that. Allow one of us to return, to warn the Empire to quarantine this entire system. No more ships would come." The entity's expression hardened again. "Deception. Your kind always attempts deception. The warning would become an invitation to send greater forces, more powerful weapons." As it spoke, the black heart began to pulse more rapidly, and the shadows circled closer. Saren realized they were running out of time. The entity had no intention of letting any of them leave. It was simply studying them, learning from them before it absorbed them. He exchanged a glance with Marex, a silent communication born of years serving together. The science officer gave an almost imperceptible nod and began slowly edging away from Saren, drawing the attention of several shadows. "You're right," Saren admitted to the entity. "The Empire would not retreat. Not without proof. Convincing proof." He took a step closer to the pit. "Show me. Show me what you showed Leora and Rav. Help me understand, so I can make others understand." The Leora thing smiled, a disturbing expression on its altered face. "Yes, understanding is good. Compliance is better." It floated closer, extending a hand toward Saren. "Come, join with the Black Heart. See the truth through countless eyes, across countless millennia." As the entity approached, Saren activated the quantum disruptor, its power indicator shifting from standby to active. The device began to hum, drawing energy from the surrounding environment to fuel its devastating discharge. The Leora thing froze, its black eyes widening. "No, you cannot." "Now!" Saren shouted. Marex and the remaining security officers activated dazzle grenades simultaneously, filling the chamber with blinding light. The shadows recoiled, writhing in apparent pain as their darkness was temporarily banished. In that moment of confusion, Saren lunged forward, pushing past the Leora thing and sprinting toward the edge of the pit. The quantum disruptor grew hot in his hands as its power built toward critical discharge. "Stop him!" the entity commanded, its voice now a discordant chorus of countless, absorbed consciousnesses. Shadows surged toward Saren from all directions, but the light from the dazzle grenades kept them at bay for precious seconds. He reached the edge of the pit and looked up at the hovering black heart. Close now, almost within the disruptor's effective range. Behind him, he heard the distinctive sound of energy weapons as his remaining team fought to keep the shadows back. A scream told him they'd lost another officer. The Leora thing appeared before him, its form now barely humanoid as it rippled with black energy. "You will doom all," it hissed. "Without the trap, they will come. The ancient ones. The devourers of stars." "Perhaps," Saren acknowledged. "But that's a choice for free beings to make, not for an automated system that preserves through destruction." He raised the quantum disruptor, aiming it directly at the black heart. The device had reached 90% charge, enough for a devastating, but not optimal discharge. The entity lunged for him, its form distorting as it stretched impossible limbs toward the weapon. Saren dodged, but one tendril of darkness caught his arm, sending waves of numbing cold through his body. He struggled to maintain his grip on the disruptor as the cold spread rapidly. "Saren!" Marex called from somewhere behind him. "The interference pattern. It's electromagnetic and psychic. Disrupt both simultaneously." Understanding flashed through Saren's mind. The Black Heart operated on two levels, technological and mental. The quantum disruptor would handle the former, but they needed something to disrupt the latter. As if in answer to his unspoken question, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, use this!" Rav, or something wearing Rav's form, stood at the edge of the darkness, holding what appeared to be a modified communication device. Unlike Leora, this version of Rav showed signs of resistance. His translucent body was clouded with patches of darkness, but his eyes remained clear and determined. "The resonance inverter!" Rav shouted, tossing the device toward Saren. "It'll disrupt the psychic field." Saren caught the device with his free hand, immediately recognizing Rav's work, a communication array modified to broadcast on the exact frequencies that would interfere with the signal patterns Marex had identified. The Leora thing screeched, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Betrayal! How are you resisting?" Rav smiled grimly. "You forgot something important about my species. Our neural pathways are designed to carry multiple contradictory thoughts simultaneously. You can't overwhelm a mind built for paradox." The entity howled in rage and sent shadows surging toward Rav. The communications specialist stood his ground, his body beginning to dissolve as the darkness enveloped him. "Now, Captain," Rav called, his voice already fading, "while I'm keeping it distracted." Saren activated the resonance inverter with one hand while aiming the quantum disruptor with the other. The inverter immediately began broadcasting, sending waves of disruptive energy through the chamber. The shadows nearest to Saren wavered, their movements becoming erratic. The Black Heart pulsed violently, sending arcs of dark energy lashing throughout the chamber. Several struck near Saren, scorching the stone floor and sending shards of rock flying. 95%, Saren muttered, watching the disruptor's charge indicator. 97. The Leora thing launched itself at him, its form now a writhing mass of shadows, barely containing Leora's original shape. "You will join us!" it shrieked. "I'll join eventually!" "Not today," Saren replied, and pressed the disruptor's discharge button. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, reality itself seemed to buckle as the quantum disruptor released its devastating energy. A sphere of distortion expanded outward, engulfing the Black Heart in its first pulse. Where the distortion field touched technology, Matter simply rearranged itself at the atomic level, turning complex mechanisms into random arrangements of their component elements. The black heart shuddered as the disruptor's effect reached it. Its scale-like surface began to flake away, revealing glimpses of impossible machinery within. Dark energy arced wildly from its deteriorating form, striking the chamber walls with enough force to collapse entire sections. "Run!" Saren shouted to Marex and the lone remaining security officer. "Back to the surface!" The chamber was collapsing around them as the Black Heart's destruction triggered a chain reaction throughout Earth's defense system. The shadows were everywhere now, no longer controlled, but panicking, lashing out blindly at anything that moved. Saren felt a hand grasp his shoulder, Marex, pulling him toward the exit tunnel. "We have to go, Captain. This whole complex is coming down." Together, they ran through collapsing tunnels, navigating by the light of Marex's remaining portable source. Behind them, the Black Heart's death throes sent shockwaves through the underground complex, collapsing passages and shaking loose tons of ancient stonework. They had nearly reached the surface when a final, catastrophic explosion shook the earth beneath them. The tunnel ahead collapsed completely, blocking their escape route. "Trapped!" the security officer gasped, staring at the wall of rubble. Saren examined the collapsed section. "Maybe not. These stones are loose. We might be able to clear enough for one person to squeeze through." They worked frantically, pulling away stones and debris as the complex continued to collapse around them. After several exhausting minutes, they had created a small opening, barely large enough for one person to wriggle through. "You first," Saren ordered Marex. The science officer hesitated. "Captain." "That's an order." Saren cut him off. "Someone has to warn the Empire. You know the science. You can explain what happened here." Reluctantly, Marex squeezed through the opening, followed by the security officer. Saren prepared to follow them when another tremor shook the tunnel, sending more debris cascading down. The opening narrowed, now too small for Saren to pass through. "Captain," Marex called from the other side. "We'll clear it again." "No time," Saren replied, feeling the tunnel beginning to give way around him. "Get back to the ship. Use the emergency beacon. Warn them. Marex, warn everyone." "I promise," came the muffled reply. Saren stepped back from the blocked passage, accepting his fate. He had completed his mission. The Black Heart was destroyed, and with luck, Marex would ensure no other Imperial ships fell into Earth's trap. As the tunnel began to collapse around him, Saren thought he saw shadows gathering at the edge of his light's radius, not attacking now, but watching, waiting. "Not this time," he told them, drawing his sidearm. "And if I have anything to say about it, not ever again." The shadows retreated as the ceiling came down. On the surface, Marex and the security officer emerged from the underground passage just as it collapsed behind them with a thunderous roar. The ground shook violently for several minutes before finally settling into eerie stillness. "He's gone," the officer said quietly. Marex nodded grimly. "But not in vain. Come, we need to reach the ship." They made their way back through the ruined city, navigating by the position of Earth's sun. As they walked, they noticed changes in their surroundings. The oppressive feeling that had permeated the area since their arrival had lifted, and their portable equipment, which had been functioning erratically, now operated normally. "The interference is gone," the officer observed, checking her scanner. "Whatever Captain Saren did down there, it worked." When they finally reached the crashed Imperial vessel, they found the crew in a state of cautious optimism. Systems that had been failing for days had suddenly stabilized, and the shadowy manifestations that had been haunting the ship's corridors had vanished. Marex immediately accessed the emergency quantum beacon, a last resort device designed to send a single, compressed message across vast distances. The technology was experimental and unreliable, but it represented their only hope of warning the Empire before more ships arrived. He composed a brief but urgent message. Earth planetary system contains ancient defense mechanism. Captain Saren sacrificed himself to disable central control system. But secondary systems likely remain. Do not approach Earth. Quarantine Sol system immediately. This is not a conquest opportunity. It is an existential threat. The Aruki warnings were correct. Earth is a trap. After sending the message, Marex gathered the ship's surviving officers to explain what they had discovered. The Black Heart had been part of a galactic quarantine system, designed to capture and contain expansionist civilizations before they could attract the attention of something far worse, lurking in the depths of space. Captain Saren believed that free beings should choose their own path, even with this risk, Marex explained. But he also believed in the power of warnings, that knowledge freely shared could prevent disaster where force could not. In the days that followed, the crew worked to restore what systems they could, establishing a more permanent settlement around their crashed vessel. Without drive systems or the materials to repair them, they were stranded on Earth, perhaps permanently. 2 weeks after the destruction of the Black Heart, their quantum receiver detected a response to their warning message. The Imperial High Command had received their transmission and, after verification, had declared the entire Sol system a prohibited zone. No Imperial vessels would approach Earth again. Marex stood on a hilltop overlooking their settlement, watching Earth's sun set in a blaze of orange and purple. Behind him, the crashed Imperial ships glinted in the fading light, monuments to hubris and warnings to all who might see them from orbit. In his hand, he held a small communication device he had constructed from salvaged parts. For days, he had been broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies, directed not at the Empire, but at any other civilizations that might one day approach this forbidden world. Warning to all spacefaring species: do not approach Earth. The trap is broken, but the danger remains. Respect the quarantine. Remember those who came before you. Remember the warning. As darkness fell, Marex activated the device one more time, sending the message out into the night. In the vast silence that followed, he thought he heard an echo, or perhaps an answer, carried on the wind that swept across the ancient ruins of Earth. Remembered, warned, waiting. He shivered, though the night was warm, and turned back toward the lights of the settlement. Behind him, stars began to appear in Earth's sky, distant points of light that no Imperial ship would ever again approach. The trap had been broken, but the warning remained. For now, that would have to be enough.